It's calling all of us now.
Directed and written by Matt Devino and David Michael Yohe, we are talking The Daemon. And this is a Lovecraftian surreal horror movie. So what's the story? Well, it focuses on initially this guy called Tom, and he gets a message at the beginning of the movie to say that his father has committed suicide, and he's been not found. His body's is missing. So he goes to his father's lake house. He's estranged from his father, and you know, he then kind of effectively is ignoring his wife. You know, his wife, he kind of goes to this lake house without really sort of saying much. His wife is distraught and turns to her brother, who is married to a kind of psychoanalyst, like a psychologist type person. And the three of them go to find this Tom at this lake house. And at this lake house, there appears to be some type of entity or paranormal force that is maybe responsible for the suicide or the apparent suicide of the father, but also is having an influence over the four of these people there now. What will happen? You will have to watch the movie and find out. So let us discuss. So this is very much a movie about a kind of an oppressive tone, really. It's kind of a film where you don't quite know what is going on, obviously, until it's all kind of complete. But you're just feeling this growing sense of there's something not quite right. There is some type of force that is affecting people in different ways, and sometimes overtly and sometimes maybe more subtly. But it's gradually increasing as time goes on, and you can kind of understand initially why the character of Tom maybe didn't want his wife to come and find him, things like this. This is very much a film where its key ingredient is the atmosphere. But it is helped by, I think, some solid performances by its cast. Relatively small cast, but I think everyone here does a great performance. And there's some sort of interesting and disturbing visuals at times, you know, where we see this kind of influence of this entity. And it's very much a Lovecraft movie without being, you know, a direct adaptation. In actual fact, you throw around the label Lovecraftian quite a lot, and sometimes it's more tenuous, and sometimes, you know, it's more direct. This one is definitely a kind of a one you would describe as Lovecraftian. I'd also say I'd compare this movie to a film I'd seen before called Harvest Lake. It's a similar setup in actual fact. Harvest Lake had a bit more of a sexual overtone to it, whilst this one doesn't. But other than that, if you've seen Harvest Lake, you kind of know where this film is going. And I've got to say, I think what helps this growing atmosphere is the use of music, this kind of oppressive score that's kind of running through it, and then we get the kind of the VFX. Now, the VFX build as the film goes on, and you'll see more and more as you head towards the climax, so it gets more overt in regards to the horrific nature about what's kind of going on. And you have a real feeling of like powerlessness when you're watching this film. You're thinking, how are these, you know, how do these people have any hope of survival? And I think that's testament to the film, and the way it kind of gives you this oppressiveness kind of through the kind of the filmmaking process, because that's kind of what it's doing. It's this supernatural force which is all encompassing. So I kind of really enjoyed that. Now it is somewhat surreal at times. You don't quite know what you're watching, but I do feel, at least by the end, I think it kind of is more of a satisfying film. But it does take a little while to kind of, I think, warm up. What doesn't work in this movie, it does take a little time to warm up, I will say. So when I first watched this, I hadn't read any blurb about it or anything like that, and I'm thinking, I don't really know what I'm watching. I'm watching various interactions with people, but I don't know the thread of the story here. It wasn't really until we kind of get to the lake house where I felt things started to tie together a little bit. So initially, I do think the story starts off a little vague about what's actually kind of happening, and feels a little kind of disconnected at times. So, you know, it takes a kind of while to get to the meat of the story, to be honest. So other than that, I think one sort of logical problem which comes up here is the fact that our character of Tom finds out his father's died and then kind of has a mysterious, like, just disappears from his wife. And that's obviously going to cause his wife to go looking for him or try and find out what's happened. And, you know, he's doing it to, air quotes, protect her. But if he really wanted to stop her from coming to this kind of beach house, maybe he would have been more logical to kind of just be a bit more communicative and say, look, I want to go and sort out my father's affairs. Like, I'd give you like a couple of weeks and I'll sort it out. Or just say you're going on a business trip somewhere else. You know, the fact that he's obviously going to see his father, but that he's kind of not really having any other communications, obviously going to make his wife to go to that place. And it's like, why would, if you were doing this to protect her, you would either throw her off the scent or you would just try and kind of like cover up the fact about what's actually going on without seeming all mysterious. And the last thing I would say is, this is going to be hard to say without spoiling anything, to be honest with you, but I feel a movie where you have protagonists and they are up against an insurmountable threat, I feel that you have to have elements where different options are potentially on the table. So all I can really say without sort of spelling out this movie, but I feel that this movie can only really end one way, is what I'm kind of saying here. So it's a good movie. It's maybe a little bit slow and surreal for some. I actually quite enjoyed it. I was invested in the characters. I think the visual imagery was fantastic and a great spooky atmosphere. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? Would you see it? Please do let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.